In an occasion like this, we start by asking the Lord to bless us, to guide us, to protect us, and to give us wisdom to go through a program like this. Therefore, I'll ask our referent, Jackie Barker, to come and give us a prayer.
I bring greetings, please be seated. I bring greetings from Dumasani's church, Struben Valleys United, and they send their deepest condolences with you. They will be gathering on Saturday to say farewell to Dumasani, who was one of our elders and who served faithfully in our community for many years. And so as I come to pray, I just want to remind his family, especially of John 14, where Jesus promises that there are many rooms in his Father's house. And that is where we know that Dumasani is now. And he finishes with these words. He says, "Peace I leave with you. My peace I give to you. I do not give to you as the world gives. So do not let your hearts be troubled. And do not be afraid." Let us pray. Father God, in times like these where our hearts are broken, where we cannot understand why it must be this way, while we wrestle with being parted from someone whom we loved, someone who was so precious to us. It is in these times that we come to you and we ask for your comfort. We ask that you will hold our hearts. We ask that you will provide us with the healing and with the knowledge that we can believe that Dumasani is with you and that one day we will be there too and we will see him again. Father, as we go through this program, I pray that you will bless us, that you will bless this time together, that you will journey with each of us, that as we remember Dumasani and as we celebrate his life, you will draw alongside us as we feel both joy and gratitude for someone so special, so charismatic. And at the same time we grieve and our hearts ache with the loss. And we thank you that you come to comfort us. We pray especially for his family, for his 3 boys. We ask that you will carry them through this week as they remember him. And especially for his boys and his parents and his siblings, that over the next couple of months as they miss him, as they journey with that loss, that you will be especially near to them. I pray for all those in City Press as they have to rearrange their staffing, as they have to refigure out a new normal without someone as amazing as Dumasani. And we just pray that you give them wisdom, that you give them grace, that you enable them to do this journey well. Thank you for your love for us. Thank you that at a time like this you are near to us and you bring us your peace. We pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, the Reverend, for the wonderful and kind words as we start our program. This morning when I walked into the office around 7:45, it felt so strange because normally he would arrive at the same time after dropping the boys at school and we'll have coffee together. It has just dawned on me that it won't be the case anymore because he's not there. I'm sure throughout the program we'll hear a lot about him. We are here to celebrate his life, which was cut short from us. I'm sure most of us will only have good memories as we remember him. The song that I started with, as you go to a third verse, it says, Tato ya hao aidrahale. Normally, when we sing, we don't get the message or the meaning. We just sing along without really grasping the real meaning. Basically, it says, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. But sometimes we don't really get the message. It's so fitting. I don't know if it's ironic or just a coincidence that our first speaker of the day is from the Ombuds. Dumisane was our internal Ombud. We always had issues, especially with page 3 stories, the reporter would come and say, I have an issue because I want to name the person who is involved. He would say no, but in terms of our protocols, in terms of ethics, our ethical conduct, we can't name the person when there are kids involved. And the reporter would say, but I know that other papers will name the person. But he would stick to his guns and to say, we're not going to do that. He was one person who, proved that the majority is not always right. Even if he was alone, he will defend his position. Come Sunday, you'll see the tabloids running with the same story, with a picture and naming the person, while we'll be saying a top player or a top actor. And so Pippa Green, please come to the fore and give us your words of encouragement.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? To all of Dumisane's friends and colleagues and family who are here, thank you for doing me the honor of allowing me to speak. But I have to say, I wish we were not here today. I wish things had been different, because there's some people who come into your life and who make such a huge impression that you cannot imagine what life was like before they stamped their presence there. And Dumisane was one of those. Although I knew him through his writing before, I met him only 2 years ago when I took on the job of Ombud, and since then we worked frequently and closely together. We dealt with very difficult and torturous cases. You said, Timothy, some of them, like Alf Lukau, the man who resurrected the Zimbabwean man, was one of the stories that went on endlessly, because Alf Lukau is a man with expensive lawyers. And he, a self-styled miracle healer, City Press ran 2 stories that had serious allegations against him, including sexual assault. And in fact, most of the allegations proved quite correct. Dumisane had really done his homework on it. And he couldn't have behaved in a more unassailably professional and friendly manner throughout that. For the most part, he was responsible for the paper really crossing the T's and dotting the I's. And each encounter with Dumi was like this. My role is often to nag or cajole editors and sometimes to point out mistakes, and it's a role that can easily result in tension. But with Dumi, it never did. He remained solid, professional, and ethical in every phone conversation or meeting we had, and friendly and warm too. He never took anything personally. He believed in ethics and the press code and accountability precisely because he believed in journalism and the public good that it serves. My colleagues at the Press Council all echo this. He was a pleasure to work with. Sometimes we spoke about running. We were mutually enthralled by both the joy and the torture of it. He was much better than me, of course, and he always spoke about his 3 sons, of whom he was so proud. I did not have a conversation with him when he did not update me on the activities of one or all of them. Just last week, in what was to be our last telephone conversation, he told me he'd been to enroll his youngest Wandile in grade 8. Dumisani was so young and so accomplished, with even more promise on the horizon, so his loss is especially difficult to bear. So on behalf of all at the Press Council, Latifa, Kani, Fani, and the 2 judges in Gwepe and Levinson, I'd like to extend our deepest condolences to his parents, Mr. and Mrs. Lubisi, and his sons, Tando, Siamtanda, and Wandile, and to all his colleagues at City Press. We hope your memories of him bring you some relief from your pain and grief. For my part, I shall miss him more than I can say. Lanango Kolo Butwa.
Thanks, Pippa, for your kind words, and to the Lubisi family. I'm sure you're still going to hear a lot about Dumi. We normally hear that no one is irreplaceable, but I've got no doubt in my mind that it won't be easy to replace Dumisane. You know, I was thinking since Saturday about lots of things, you know. It seemed as if we had an abusive relationship with Dumisane at City Press. You know, when I'm not there, he'll do sport. You know, he'll throw him. He'll have to edit sport. When Gabriel is not there, he'll take charge of business. This is on top of voices, on top of the letters, on top of all the endless complaints that we receive. When Mondli is not there, he's in charge of the paper. So obviously, you know, looking back, and now it means Mondli has to think twice before he goes on leave, because no one, I don't know, it's not going to be easy to fill the void that he has left. What I'll miss most, I spoke about our morning breakfast, our morning coffee. We also, you know, every morning he will bring magwinyas on his way to Parktown. He'll buy magwinyas. We sit at the office, and he'll say, "No, you can eat." And then and I'll say, because he knew that in the afternoon he was going to run, just to, you know, so that he doesn't gain weight. He took to running like, you know, nobody's business, and he enjoyed it. I remember our first race. It was in Pretoria. He came with the boys. He did 21, and he was over the moon that he finished it. It was the first one. It was tough, but then he got into the groove, and once he got into the groove, he never looked back. And you know, I'm glad that even on his last day on this planet, he did what he loved most. It's not easy to accept. The other day on Monday, we were arguing about a verse in Ezekiel. The only verse that Mondli knows about Ezekiel is about the bones, obviously about pirates, Matambo Tlanganana. I think this is what Ezekiel used to say. But I went back. It's actually Ezekiel 24, verse 16, which says, with one blow, I'm going to take away what your eyes liked. You need not cry or weep or lament because I know what I'm doing. We know that it's hard, especially for the family. In cricket, we used to have someone called Jack Callis as an all-rounder. Dumisane was an all-rounder. I'll later talk about his versatility, because he was versatile, he was industrious. I'll call on Hopewell Hadebe, who will represent South Africa's National Editors Forum. Mr. Hadebe, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this morning I struggled to get a clean suit. Most of my clothes seemed shrunken somehow. I then realized how dreadfully disruptive the coronavirus has been to all our lives, to such an extent that you hardly find a shirt that you think is still fitting you. Since I'm one of those who work from home, ladies and gentlemen, I bring heartfelt condolences and prayers from the South African National Editors Forum, its leadership and chairman, Sibusise Ngalwa, who could not join us here today due to prior arrangements. I would never have imagined that heart failure could dare challenge as strong a man, as healthier a man as my friend and colleague Dumisane Lubisi. He challenged me to run with him, and I always procrastinated. Believe me, I never joined him. It was this week or that week. It was a lot of work you give me, so I had a lot of excuses. We wish we could look up in the blue sky and ask the good Lord to just lend us his life a little bit more years. Dumisane lost his life at a time when the industry is bleeding jobs, left, right, and center. The magazine sector is almost wiped out. Newsrooms are shrinking like my junkets and pens. Yet the news are so much. There is so much for everybody to cover, to tell the story of our lives. At this juncture, freelancers were always at Dumisane's door, lobbying him to publish their craft, their artwork. And he would sit down after reading those and say, "Askhulume mshana," then you know that there is something not, or maybe amiss about that article. And he will then seek to gently tell this person that you need to tighten up here, make this better, and this is overwritten, it's really too long. Can't you make it maybe 800 words from the 2005 or 3,000 words that you've written? They were often not happy with him afterwards, but it was a job, as he said. One little anecdote, as a former news editor at the City Press, we had a story about one young artist, and he saw something and he said, "Can't you fix that?" And I said to Mshana, respectfully, this is just a minor thing. I regret to tell you that it came back. The ombuds was kicking at our door, asking clarity and so on about this article, and they were querying that little thing. That little thing I thought was insignificant that Dumisane had noticed. And then he realized that I had ignored him. I had just said, this is fine, man. He's just being pedantic. By the time we sent a response to the ombuds and a reply, which he already knew what it was, that will be found guilty, and it came back. I'm telling you, my ears were oozing the press code, left, right, center. Every related and unrelated clause had been preached and drummed, and I was sinking or drowning from his words because of that. And he made me remember for a long time. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, let me read or share with you the so-called The Measure of a Man, and I will add the words, the man we call Dumisane Lubisi. It was written by an anonymous person but submitted by Longinus. I've always loved these words. It is not how he died, but how did he live? Not what he gained, but what he gave or had to give. These are the things that measure the worth of a man as a man, regardless of birth. Not what was his station, but had he a heart, and how did he play his God-given part? Was he ever ready with a word of good cheer, to bring back a smile, to banish a tear? Not what his church was, not what was his creed, but had he befriended those really in need? Not what did the sketch in the newspaper say, but how many were sorry when he passed away. These are the things that measure the worth of a man as a man, regardless of birth. Thank you, Chair.
We had a name for Dumisane at the office, which he wasn't aware of. He didn't know that we used to call him Chipa, me and Montli and Rapule from Chipa Chauke of the former Orlando Pirates player, whose nickname was the principal. Basically, we're referring to him as the principal. Because he was strict. The office, when it, like Hopewell says, when it comes to issues relating to ethics, even when you've got a report, he wants you to not just rely on a report. You go back to the source who should talk to the report. Make one mistake, he's on top of you. One thing that I won't forget about him is that he took his job seriously. He didn't want to cut corners. He hated apologies and corrections. He wanted all of us to get it right the first time. Pity in this day and age of digital and online platforms, most of us have fallen into the trap of wanting to be the first with news and not getting it right the first time. It's something that I think some of the lessons that he has left us with, it didn't matter to him whether we were first with the news. All he wanted was for us to get it right. Whenever we had meetings, remember the last 2 virtual meetings we had with the bosses from Cape Town, he would keep quiet, but obviously not quiet. Come to question, he'll take his time digesting exactly what had been discussed, and before long he would say, from where I am standing, this is how I see things. I'm sure Rika can attest to that because he didn't always agree with everyone. He always had questions, but for the good of the organization, he always wanted to see the best for all of us. Rika, the platform is yours. Thank you. As you can see on your programs, Rika is Media 24 CEO on the print media side. Thank you.
Dear family members, our colleagues from City Press and Media 24, and elsewhere, and friends. Having to stand here today to pay my respects to the family and friends of someone we lost too soon is one of the most difficult things I've had to do in my life. I've known Dumisane for what seems like a very short time, yet long enough to realize what a wonderful person he was. Thank you for the opportunity to join in celebrating his life today. Madiba said, what counts in life is not the mere fact that we have lived. It is what difference we have made to the lives of others that will determine the significance of the life we led. Mr. and Mrs. Lubisi, your son made a difference in the lives of so many others, not just through his work in the media industry, but as you were here today, also in his dealings with countless colleagues and friends. We knew him as a highly intelligent, vibrant individual with a great sense of humor, and also that rare human quality of an inherent and sincere friendliness towards everybody who ever crossed his path. Somebody who was never motivated by fear or his own interest, but driven by duty and love. Dumisane firmly believed and stood by that most important currency we have in media, trust. And he was uncompromising in his pursuit of the truth and upholding the principles of the press code that steadfast in his principles. He played a critical role to ensure that the City Press team maintained the highest standards. But he was not only the gatekeeper of ethical reporting. His journalistic contribution informed, educated, and entertained countless readers over the years. As media companies, we are often guilty of forgetting how important the work is that we do. Dumisane's work mattered, and he made a difference. Tandu, Sia, Wandile, your dad set an example for all of us when it came to standing firm for what you believe in. He also made all of us look bad and feeling a little bit jealous with his very professional and fashionable dress code. Always remember that the important role that your father played in the media industry represented only one side of him. Everyone close to your dad knew that you were his pride and his reason for living. I remember once having a conversation about how strict he was with the boys, but I soon realized I was not going to win that debate. But also remember that his motivation was honest and simple. He wanted only the best for you. The people you are seeing here today is just a small sample of the people that cared deeply for him. He was an amazing person who played a unique and a special role in our lives. In the words of our CEO, Ishmael Davidson, Dumisane, you have left an indelible mark on the lives of your colleagues, our company, and our industry. We're much poorer for the untimely death of a media legend. I want to close with the words of Khalil Gibran. When you are sorrowful, look again in your heart, and you shall see that in truth you are weeping for that which has been your delight. Thank you.
Thank you, Rika, for those kind words. Dumisane had touched so many lives positively, for that matter. Most of us didn't know a place called Matsulu, and he always spoke of Matsulu, proudly so. He used to boast that when every year I take a trip to Kruger National Park, he would say he doesn't have to go to Kruger because the animals come to his village, to Matulu. He doesn't have to cross the fence to book there. He put Matsulu on the map, so those in Matsulu should be proud that the place is known because Dumisane spoke fondly of his hometown of village. Every morning when I packed my lunchbox, I would pack more because I wasn't alone. We always shared our lunchbox. He would do the same as well when he brought his lunchbox, knowing that I'll share with him. In the afternoon, we'll take a short trip to our own food lovers market. That's what we called it, by the fence, where there's a stall for fruit. We call it FLM, food lovers, and yeah. We would also take short trips to Campus Square to buy one or two things almost every second day. Now that I'm left alone, I don't know whether I'll still be able to carry the lunchbox because now it's going to be lonely. Masuhume was reminding me yesterday that he used to say Shanku. That's how he called me, Shanku. And then I'll say Rus from Ras to Misane. That's how I used to call him. People have already spoken about his sense of fashion, although lately he was complaining about his pants becoming too big because of running. As a result, he had to, every second month go to the tailor to alternate them, to alter them. So in his line of work, he dealt with many people from all spheres of life. People will send their copy to him, the contributors, and without fail, he would go through each and every of them Those that didn't make it to the paper, you'll recommend to go online. One of those contributors who has been always there for us is Muditi Mamanye, who's now gonna share a few words with us.
I'm not very sure about the few. I just take it as some form of pursuing the intimidation that the editor tried to say I will speak for 1.5 minutes. Program director, the Lubisi family, City Press editor Mondli Makanya, and the City Press family, my dear parents, brothers and sisters who are present here. Just about 2 weeks ago, I spoke to Dumisane talking about the death of my brother. And he was at great pains to lecture me about the inevitability and suddenness of death. And he kept on insisting to me that there's nothing I could do about death except to accept it and cherish the moment I had with my brother. When I received the news of his passing, I thought this fellow was preparing me. And he was saying to me, I'm going and you do not cry. And it is honor I shall accept unreservedly his death and will be reluctant to call it sudden. Matsulu gave us a warrior son, from the dusty villages to the towers of Johannesburg. And he was a regular visitor in our homes every Sunday. He was a true child brought about by the village of Matsulu, based on the values and virtues of Ubuntu. He was a firm worker and a friend, a dedicated father, a loving, compassionate, and caring personality. He was a bit of a larger-than-life fellow, but he was also a beacon of hope and courage, decisive, a committed patriot, and a servant of his people. He was not only selfless, but also knowledgeable, and he believed in life, peace, and happiness. But he was also a troubled soul in sport, who supported a soccer team that almost won the league. This is a difficult moment when our emotions are touched by what we think is a sudden death of our brother, friend, and colleague. This is a moment when the family must be asking the question, why us and why so soon? We probably have one or the other question regarding what we regard as his untimely death. We do so because we never accept that we do not have control over when we will be called to our Creator. But we also do so because we value what and who we have in our lives. We are not wrong at all. We have more right to value life and to value those we love and live with. We must not assume that it is only those who knew him personally who are touched and affected. Those who are disadvantaged but who benefited from his humanity and kindness may not even know that he's no more. In one of our many conversations, he detailed to me how he was going to donate all the things that he doesn't need to those who don't have. And I asked him, but why don't you take this like to these homes? Or he says, no, I'm going to park my car somewhere. I'm going to distribute this thing. I don't want these people to know who I am, and I don't want anybody to say thank you to me. We are confronted with a contradiction. We are questioning why a young fellow left us so early. But as we do so, we forget that he may have been young, but he was great. His greatness may have reached its peak, and his purpose in this life served. For that reason, And in the midst of our pain and heartbreak, we must appreciate his greatness from which we benefited. Dumisane joins millions of people who perished this most difficult time the world over. His death, although unrelated to the calamity of this vicious COVID-19 virus, adds to the pain and heartbreak of the millions of families across the globe who have endured this tragedy. It is, however, not sufficient to say we are not alone. We are indeed in pain, and we need to gain our strength and recover from this tragedy which has befallen us. I've had some dealings with Dumisane, and one was a very difficult one, because he called me one day and he said, he actually sent me a WhatsApp and said, I need to speak to you about a personal legal matter. When can I call you? And knowing who he was, I then WhatsApped him my banking details and said, look, once I get an SMS from the bank, I will tell you when to call me. Then he responded with an okay. A few minutes later, he called, and the first question was, did you receive the SMS from the bank? I said, no. He said, well, I think the problem is with your bank. Why don't you contact your banker as soon as we finish this conversation? And we almost had 1.5 hours of discussion. In that 1.5 hours, I probably spoke for no more than 30 minutes. And at some point, I was asking, but who's advising who here? This guy said he wants legal advice. But I think it was out of that conversation that I formed the distinct view, and even the editor will not contest me on this one, that Dumisane was a man of great integrity. The issues that we were discussing in his personal life were very complicated, with major implications, and he needed to take a decision. And I think the reason why he spoke too much is because he was telling me the decision that he took and wanted to check with me whether he was correct in law. So I ended up being advised about how we deal with some of these matters. And I then remembered what Bob Marley said about greatness, when he said the greatness of man is not how much wealth he acquires, but in his integrity and his ability to affect those around him positively. Of course, I have been on the receiving end of this soccer problem with his editor. And I've always wondered, why are these very good fellows, very hardworking, trapped in a tendency of supporting clubs that don't win anything? And I asked him, but what is the problem here? He said, no, we need to protect the editor against himself. And I thought, but if I call the editor will say we need to protect Dumisane against himself. But then, you see, Mr. Editor, the commonality between me and Dumisane is that our bosses share a surname. We're not saying you are bad guys, we think you are good guys, but that is what brought us together. So we took a decision now that we will protect you against yourself. I then checked in the Constitution whether you are not violating your own rights, and I found that in Section 12 of the Constitution, you have a right not to be tortured by supporting something that doesn't win. And I also found that in Section 13 of the Constitution, you might be subjected to some form of slavery with this. Now, because of the agreement that I have with Dumisane, I'm going to pursue that project of helping you about yourself. Let me say what my view of Dumisane is that he's a man that there's a lot to learn from, because I think he understood and appreciated the importance of press freedom and responsibility. I think often we talk about the freedom of the press and not the responsibility of the press. He understood and appreciated the importance of tolerance and divergent views. Whilst he was not attracted to make silly political statements, he was in fact a silent politician. He was a diligent servant and a patriot who understood the importance of constitutionalism and human rights, both in his public and private life. He understood that whilst he was not neutral, he had a responsibility to be fair and to ensure justice. He appreciated the importance that the role of the media plays as a platform to stimulate intellectual and public debate on important national issues. In my life, he was an academic. I regard him as a professor because I became his student because of his editorial prowess and capability. I must say, as I conclude, that, you know, as we speak with Dumisane, we spoke less about what I wrote, because what he would do, I would send him an opinion piece and he doesn't respond, and I call him, is there something I need to do? If he doesn't want to publish, he just says rubbish. I don't know what rubbish means. And I give up. And I just accept it as it is. But I think the Dumisane has been talking to me. I don't know whether he's a handyman or he's a journalist, because he has been so busy in his house. And this day I had to listen for such a long time, telling me about how he was applying rhinolite. And the next day I'm called, hey, you know, I've just bought tiles. You know, I got them for this price. And I say, but Dumisane, I have no clue about what you're talking about. And I think that there's something important, and to his boys, because we spoke a lot about his boys. And I thought at some point, but we need to go to the children's court. These kids might just be subjected to a military situation. But he kept on saying to me, I need these boys to survive without me. And probably little did I know that he was saying, I'm going to leave far earlier than they would have been matured. But we also had some pact, myself and him, because we have some other commonality. And it is regrettable that that collective decision he will not be there to implement. In his honor, I will implement my part of that deal. On the 18th of September, he sent me a message, because I think the other side of Dumisane had this boastful tendency. And he said to me, I'm climbing a mountain. And I thought, but what are you doing on a mountain? He said, no, I'm doing something other than exercise. And I think that, and he later explained to me what he was doing. And I want to say to his partner that that event of the 18th was consistent with what we had discussed with Dumisane. And it is regrettable that he was not to be alive to carry it through to the end. And let me say to the family that please be comforted and cherish the privilege that you have given us this young warrior. And to his children, let me say that your father clearly and dearly loved you. And I think that in the words of author Jonathan Hanish, sadly enough, the most painful goodbyes are the ones that are left unsaid and never explained. And I think when I called him on Friday morning and he didn't answer or return my call, probably that was the time where I got into the system of an unsaid goodbye. Mr. Editor, you are going to miss that jersey that you're complaining about. And I can tell you, you better have your team to win the league to settle the score. Thank you very much.
I can only imagine when Dumisane and Mutitima were in conversation. I'm sure it was a non-stop one. Because Dumi would speak non-stop and he will want to put his point across without being interjected. That was him. Those who didn't know him better would say he was proud of himself, or he was full of himself, because as human beings we are too quick to judge others, without really getting to know them better. and we have our own perceptions from a distance. But once you get closer to a person, that's when you get to know them better, understand them, get to know how to deal with them. Most people thought Dumisane had a short fuse. He was easily irritable, easily provoked, but this was not the case. They misconstrued his strictness to being a bully, which was not the case. You know, if you deal with different people, you know, you get to understand their thinking, where they come from, where they're going. And Dumisane was one of those people that you needed to understand him, you know. I think Mutitima, you hit the nail on the cross about him and the legal issues. I think a month or so ago, we had a legal challenge. There's a story that we ran, and the following day, and we anticipated this, that we were going to get a lawyer's letter, which came on a Tuesday, demanding immediate apology, immediate retraction. And to me, as the person who was tasked with dealing with legal issues, and he was just calm. He said, no, there's no need to worry. He drafted the response. He sent it to our legal team. And I remember exactly what William said, our internal lawyer, saying, you know, should have just sent this direct to the other lawyers, because this is what exactly I was going to say. Because he knew, you know, what he was dealing with. He had worked on that story. So when it comes to legal issues, I don't know. I thought he had like an LLB of some sort without telling us, because he was at home on legal matters. On Saturday morning, I had to drop someone, a friend, at the airport early in the morning, at around 6. On my way back from the airport, I got a call from Sizwe, and I knew Sizwe is not working on Saturdays, and I was surprised that he would call me at that time of the morning, and I couldn't make sense of what he was saying. He just said, "Have you heard about Dumi?" I said, "What?" He said, Dumi had a heart attack, and knowing Sizwe and Dumi's relationship from home, and then I almost caused an accident because I lost it. And since then, I've been struggling to come to terms with what has happened. I looked at the scriptures. I looked at the hymn books. There are songs that I always listen to comfort us. But as you can imagine, it has not been easy to all of us. I still asking myself how we pulled it through on Saturday, how we managed to get the paper out, because when the news hit us, we couldn't even hold our usual meeting, diary meeting, because it was just hard to accept and to understand what really happened. Sizwe is here. He drove all the way from Mpumalanga to share his life with his friend Dumisane. Sizwe.
Good morning, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. Magel Bisi, Babel Bisi, Abantwana. My boss didn't tell me that I'm on the program today. He said we'll see you on Saturday. He set me up. But anyway, I came wearing this mask because I didn't want to talk much about the soccer debate, because Dumi and I decided about 12 years ago that we're no longer arguing about this. Otherwise, it was going to affect our friendship. In actual fact, I'm standing here not to talk about a friend, but to talk about a brother in the true sense of the word. Each time I will come to the office here in Joburg for a meeting, I will just greet, pass by, go to the office at the far end, on the left. That was Dumi's office. We'll have a chat about life, about Matsulu. That's when I would pour out my own problems. He would also pour out his own problems. That's what I'm gonna miss. And in those conversations, locked in his office, for 30 minutes, 1 hour, we'll not talk anything about work. I can't remember the last time we spoke about work, serious issues about work. It was only when there was a complaint from the Ombud. The last time I saw him face to face, he told me about his suits. Yende, because as we grew older, we're no longer calling each other by Dumi Sizwe. I was calling him Lubisi, he was calling him Yende. Yende, I've lost weight, man. I've got these suits. Do you want some? I just said, hey, what is the price, man? I thought I was going to look better, but that conversation, we could not finish it because here I am. I'm not wearing a suit. It's because I don't have it. And I was hoping that I was going to get some from my brother. I have known Dumi Lubisi, my brother, for 24 years. The first time our paths crossed, I think I was about 18 years. I met him at African Eye News, where I started my first job as a journalist. To cut a long story short, when I was there with my bags, I was coming for the second time to stay permanently there. It was in the afternoon. We were about to knock off. Then he came. Hey, mfana waseTagakral. Or that's where I come from. Manje uyohlala kuphi? Where are you going to stay? I said, I don't know. Maybe Mzilikazi is still going to be kind enough to, accommodate me for a few weeks, few more days. No, he said, you know what? I'm from Matsulu, and that's the best place you can be. Let's just go home. We went home. I'm thinking about it now, because we just showed up at home. Magel Lubisi was there. The brothers, Pomungisi, Poputsipo, Bombongeni. And I was thinking, we're still young boys, so did he tell his parents that I'm coming? But it was not an issue. I stayed with the Lubisi family for a month while I was looking for my own place. He was helping me. Dumi was actually helping me to look for a place, and he ensured that I'm getting a place, same street where he stayed, same village, same location. Many things surprised me about him, because I was 18, he was 19. 1 year older than me. But when I arrived, he could drive perfectly. Okay, I was wondering, what is this guy? Who is he? There was an old Isuzu at home. So every day after work, he would just drive me around, showing me Matsulu, showing me the bridge, telling me the history, introducing me to his friends, showing me his schools, the primary schools he attended, the soccer fields he played, everything. And also, on the domestic front, now, every morning, he was the first to wake up. First to wake up his siblings, wake up everybody, make sure that they shower, they go to school, make sure that there's breakfast. He would make it himself. I mean, he was good in the kitchen. And I was looking at this man, young boys like us are not like this. They don't do things like this, but that was Dumi for you. When I started my work at African Eye, I started as a court reporter. He was a court reporter, so they were promoting him when I arrived. I had to start there. He's the guy who held me by the hand, took me to the Nelspruit Magistrate Court, introduced me to everybody, from the prosecutors, the court clerks, the court marshals, everybody, and made things easy for me. Even in that newsroom at African Eye News, a small newsroom, he was somebody who volunteered. We arrived there, we could not even use a computer. Computers were big those days. He was somebody who would take his time to show you around. This is how a computer works. This is how he volunteered everything that he knew. I do not know, I do not have many ways to describe him, because he was just an amazing human being who always led. Since his passing, I have read almost every tweet, every Facebook post, every story about him. And everybody agrees, we all agree that he was a consummate professional. He was a good father to his kids. And he was a leader. He was a leader in such a way that whatever we did, wherever, let me make an example of African Eye News again, where we spend our childhood, and even in Matsulu. He was the guy who would say, gents, finances are tight. Why don't we pull together some money, we eat lunch together, it's going to be cheaper that way. That's what we used to do. He, Mumsiligazi, and the rest of the crew at African Eye News, he always led the way. We played indoor soccer together. Without even us appointing him, he ended up being the captain, because he was always organizing us. And when we played indoor soccer, we were playing in the evenings, on Fridays, Saturdays in the evenings. So that is a very awkward time for young people, because most of them will be tipsy by that time. But with him, he was always sober. He respected that time, that, we are going to play indoor soccer, so we have to be ready. I don't know, man. I'm standing here. He's my peer. He was just 1 year older than me. But this is the man who taught me about fatherhood, even though I was the first one to have a child before him. But he taught me about fatherhood. He was always a leader. even when I came to visit here in the office, I will not even buy any lunch because he will just tell me, it's lunchtime, let's go to have lunch. When I fumble around for my wallet, he will just say, you know what, I'm the executive editor, I'm paying here. So, yeah, he was spoiling me rotten. But, you know, when I read, what people are saying about him, I'm realizing that he was not a fake, he was not buying face, he was who he was. I just agree with everything that everybody has said about him because that is the Dumi that we all know. I am left poorer without him. I have lost a brother in the true sense of the word, a confidant, I do not know. I do not know because there are things I was speaking to him about, and he would volunteer his advice, things about life. Because he didn't even forget, you know, when I arrive at the office to have our chat whenever we meet, he will just ask me, how is your daughter? In that order. My daughter, my older daughter, I don't stay with. So he understood the complications around that. He would ask me about that first, ask about the children I'm staying with, ask about family, ask about my own community projects that I'm busy with, soccer clubs and all that. He just didn't forget, he cared, you know. He was somebody who cared. And, you know, such people are very expensive because there's no value you can attach to that. Yeah, hey, it's difficult. It has been difficult for the past few days. It doesn't sink in. But we've got to accept because God's ways we cannot understand. You know, I just believe that God has taken him away because he knows that we're going to be able to fill the void. But at the same time, when I think about it, how are we going to do that? We can only hope God has a plan for us. We're going to pull through this. I was just thinking that this earth we live in is just a huge, huge grave. It's going to swallow all of us. It's a fact. We've got to accept that. And I don't think it's necessary to ask why, because it's pointless. I was trying to think so hard, trying to be a philosopher, trying to make sense of this. I cannot find answers. It's just the way it is. But I'm sure that because he has left me, he has left us, he left first. If we're going to meet on the other side, like the first time I met you, my brother in Matsulu, I think you're going to pull me by the hand, show me around again, and make sure that I'm settled. Thank you very much.
One thing I know about Dumi from what Sizo is saying is that he was not good at football. He tried. One day I was asking him, I saw from Parktown Boys High that Sia was the best player for the grade 8 last year. And I asked him, and then he said, you know where he got it from? He got it from me. I said, no, I only knew Tando to be a player. We had a media soccer team that he came there, and but from his first touch, you could tell that he had 2 right feet. Back to what Mr. Manya was saying, you were not the only one that Dumi shared his project with. He every day without fail, he would call me via a video call, just showing how far the project was. The new tiles that you spoke about that he had just bought and were delivered, I think a week ago, he would say, I got them, because I think the first delivery was a wrong delivery that he had gotten. Then the second one, he had to go to Eastgate to get them there. The painting, the rhino lights, he did it by himself. He would say, this week the boys are not going anywhere. I'm going to work with them, show them. He was hands-on. When I was doing my project, he was always complaining. He'll take a ruler and a paper and say, here, this is how you do it. He led the way. On Monday, when we went to the house, we found the athletics team, the Stallions. He was so proud that he had joined the team. When he started running, he was just by himself, and he would go alone, and he will share the route that he was running in. He will share the distance, he'll share the times, and every time he would increase the time, he will share proudly so to say, I think I'm getting there. But one person that he was always thankful to was Coach. He used to call him Coach Spiwe. He says, that guy is tough. When we go on our training runs, he's the first there, and then he's really taking us through our paces. And not just this one who will show you and relax. He'll go with you, I think it's one thing that I never made it in football is these coaches who will just show you a drill and then they take a breath. When you have to go all the way, when you come back, they are relaxed and then they'll just show you another drill. You have to do it alone. But this is not the case with Coach Spiwe, who will come and share their loss at the Stallions. I'm sure the name says it all, from the other side of town. I'm glad that on his last day, Coach, he did what you taught him to do.
Greetings again, Kubaba no Mama, and to the A-team and the rest of the family. Dumisane will always call each time we talk. We'll never leave the conversation without talking about the A-team. And I got to know the boys and how we love them. One day we were doing a drill session on the track. So we're doing 100 meters speed sprints. And I think after that session, everyone was finished, and unfortunately, my car as well, even though it was not running, but then it was also finished. It couldn't start. Dumisane had the boys at that time and dressed, I think it was Lutando who was filming, who was taking a film, as I was doing some drills. And they were in school uniform, ready to go to school. But then I had a problem with my car. I couldn't move. And he said, "Coach, let's phone somebody who's going to help you." But I'm saying, dude, look, it's almost school time. Your sons are going to be late at school. And he said, "No, I just want to make sure that before I leave, you are sorted." And this is a kind of a man that joined our group. When he came, he had just run 21 kilometers, half marathon, Soweto, the Soweto half marathon. And when he came to me, he said, "Coach, I want you to train me because I've got a score to settle, with Soweto marathon. I need to go back there and do the full marathon." And I advised him, I said, "We do comrades here, we train for comrades. But Soweto Marathon is not an easy route to run. It's going to humble you. It's going to discourage you to be a runner. So my advice is that don't do it." And he said, "Coach, no, I'm going there. I'm going to do it." Of course, we went, and it did to him what it always does to all of us. If you don't finish a marathon under 5 hours, it's considered as a failure. So I think he finished 5 hours, 33 minutes, somewhere there. And we came back. We trained last year. It was really a good time that we spent together. And to me, we became very close. There's a picture on my profile, on my WhatsApp profile. Where we're running together. We will talk about life. We'll talk about just issues of life. He had a huge sense of humor. But we'll always talk about family. And to me, as much as I'm older to him, I learned a lot about being a father, the way he cared for his kids. So in our team, we've really lost a brother, we've lost a friend, we've lost a top runner. We're looking forward to do comrades next year, because he said to me, "Coach, I'll be training alone." Early last year, he sent me a message, and I didn't know that he even wrote a big email to our administration group, to apologize that he was not going to be coming to the training sessions early hours because he's busy with his building project, and also he needs to take the boys to school. But also he said, "Coach, please give me the program every month." So every month I'll send him the program. He will follow that program. Even now during the lockdown, we had a 3 days or 4 days program. So we said, "Guys, there are no races that are coming, so let's just keep fit." So he took up on the 4 days program, and you'll see that the last week that program is 45 kilometers. You'll see that last week he did exactly 41 kilometers, and he ran 3 days. And I was so impressed by how he will listen and he will take instruction, and the intelligence from him. And from our side, Mama and the rest of the family, we know that because of the lockdown, we won't be able to travel. Not all of us will be able to travel to Mpumalanga for the funeral. But what we're going to do on Saturday, we are going to run the race. I just want to quote from 2 Timothy chapter 4, and this is a message translation. It says, "You take over. I'm about to die, my life an offering to God's altar. This is the only race worth running. I've run hard right to the finish, believing all the way. All that is left now is the shouting, God's applauses. Depending on it, he's an honest judge." Now, Dumisane has run his race, but what we are going to do in honor of his name on Saturday, as you guys are working on his funeral, we will be running exactly the kilometers that he ran on Friday. We are going to be running 21 kilometers just in honor of him and to respect him. And thank you so much, Baba and Mama, for giving us this wonderful son, this wonderful brother. He is and he was a family to us. Thank you.
Thanks, Coach Piwe. The secret is out. He hid this away from me, that he was planning to run Comrades. He had vowed never to go there after he was humbled by the Soweto Marathon. By the way, he was not the only one. I did only one 42, and then I said no more. Coach, you are right, Soweto will humble you. I know a few of us didn't make it, and then as a result, I have decided to just do 21s, and I'm not changing. This is where I'm sticking to. When Ferial came to City Press, Dumisane was there, and they formed a bond that only Ferial can talk about, because to me it was easy to work with everyone, you know. He came to City Press in 2007 when as an investigating reporter. I remember they had an office, a small office, and but before long he had moved, you know, because he knew what he was doing. He was dedicated in his work, and I think it was under Ferial's leadership that he moved up the ladder because he deserved to move after what he had done in investigations. Ferial, I think now the platform is yours to talk to us and to the family about your life with Ras Dumisane.
So, assalamu alaikum, friends and family. Sad day to be with you. Very strange not to see Lubisi up front in that black suit, or maybe my favorite, the navy blue suit, up front and on the front page as well. Very strange days. So, City Press was very much my heart place. It was my workplace, big love affair. But to be honest with you, it wasn't always easy. I wasn't always right, and I was often wrong, and I'll only say that in this esteemed company. But Dumi was very firm, and he was kind, and he was unhesitant in telling me when I was wrong. When I was making a mess, like with the spear thing, or when I was doing a mess like fighting on tutu with my friends, most of you don't know, but very kindly and quietly he would say, no, Faye, that's not the way to do things, eh? So he held my hand, and he was a fabulous friend for all that time. I don't have children. I love children. So I like to share the children of my friends in my family. And he shared his beautiful boys, Tando, Sia, and Wandile, so very kindly. He would make you hug me in my office. And although you squirmed a little bit, I really loved those, on hard deadline days. You brought so much joy to our newsroom, and I trust, boys, that you know that you have newsrooms full of aunties and uncles who will always be there with you, be there for you, and it's not just something that we say. So to Malubisi, Malume, who I know so well from his stories, and to the family, as you take this beautiful man home on a final journey to his final rest in Matsulu, thank you so much for sharing your beautiful son with us. And I'm so very, very sorry for your loss, and I hope God will be with you through these difficult days. Thank you, Thomas.
Ferial, the fights that you had with Dumi were nothing compared to what he went through with Mondli. Almost every week there were issues, but not personal issues. The only personal one was about chiefs and pirates. Especially come Saturdays, he would come wearing his favorite Chiefs jersey. He would dare sit next to Mondli. Mondli would come wearing his Pirates jersey. So we had to make sure that they are far apart. Even the conversations, and whenever Chiefs is playing Pirates, there's also an issue of which picture to use. But not only that, there's also another issue of someone who now lives in the LA, whose picture has made it to the paper a few times. And Dumi will say, does it deserve to be there? And then it will start to say, no, but we need someone to lighten the paper. Dumi will say, but there are a lot of people, who can fill that space. And then to settle that score, and I think we'll give it to the pictures editor who was caught in between, because he reported to Dumi, but the big boss is Mondli. So, he didn't know, what to do. Not only that, when it comes to editorial decisions, Dumi always had a say. When it comes, come Thursday and Friday, we discuss leaders, we discuss the order of the paper. He would come and say, this is what I think should be our leader. And he'll give reasons, genuine reasons, compelling reasons. He was persuasive, subtly so. But if you listen to him carefully, you would understand where he was coming from, because he would argue for what he believed in. I know without him, as Mondli's right-hand man, it won't be easy to fill that gap. He has worked with Mondli for a few years, and I'm sure Mondli was also at peace whenever he was away from the office, knowing that Dumi was the right person to, see that the final product is done, a final product that everyone would be proud of. Mondli, I think this is now the platform for you to share with Dumi used to call his mom my father's girlfriend, and then his dad say my mother's boyfriend. They are here today. I think most of the words or everything that has been said has been comforting so far. Mondli.
Greetings everyone. I know it's very difficult for us today to be talking about Dumi in the past tense and to be actually coming to accept that Dumi is not here. And I think it's we all want to say it's not true. Because, and one of the reasons is that there's the fact that Dumi, as everybody has pointed out this morning, was such a fit guy, fit, healthy, and, you know, one of the healthiest guys you'll ever see. I mean, like, even in the winter, I mean, like, his flu would be the mildest of flus, and even then he would be very stubborn about leaving the office and going home, or actually staying at home, and would actually have to force him. I'm like, listen, you're going to just go and rest, and so he was that fit guy and healthy guy, and so much so that on Saturday, when the phone calls were flying, all of us talking to each other, shaking our heads and disbelieving. One person I spoke to said, disbelievingly, said, you know, at least if it was Monty or Rapule. I thought, okay. There's much love there. Yeah. So, you know, the last time I saw Dumisani, it was, I think, it was level 3 or 4, but it was sometime in the winter. We'd been away from work for a long time, and it was a chance meeting. We were driving, it was a Sunday, and we were driving somewhere near Fairlands looking for a certain address, and the GPS, for some reason, threw us off, so we were resetting the GPS. And so we parked on the side of the road just to reset. And then this car came and drove past. Then suddenly this car reversed at high speed and pulled up next to us. And then obviously you live in the city of Johannesburg and you're thinking, whoa, it's happening. And out jumped Dumi, so excited, and like jumped out, and it was such an amazing reunion on the side of the road. And we marveled at each other's hair, because at that point he also had and I understand he abandoned the cause though, and he eventually did cut his hair during this lockdown. But like we shared a few moments, and that's, so when that happened, that's the last memory I have of Dumisane physically. But as I've been trying to accept that it has happened, what occurred is that you know, how much we missed each other, and how much all of us in the City Press family missed each other. Missing our norms, missing the things we do. And it struck on Saturday when we were going through the normal routines after we'd had a staff meeting and our little meeting where we were all talking about Dumi's departure. And then we had to now start putting together a newspaper, tomorrow's newspaper, under those conditions. And you know, there are little things that you do, you know. In the office, you'd walk over to someone's desk to ask about this. If someone takes responsibility for that. Now that we are remote, you know, it's an email to so-and-so. It's a phone call to so-and-so. Can you take care of this? What do you think of this angle for this story? What do you think of this? And then him coming back saying, hey, I'm worried about paragraph 7 or whatever, because there are some... shouldn't we turn the story around? There's some legals, there's some problems here. And, you know, there are those things that make up part of our Saturday. And then at the end of the day, at 3 p.m., we have 2 meetings on Saturday. One's at 10, one's at 3 p.m. And at 3 p.m., Dumi's not there. Sorry, just 2 seconds. Yeah. But so it's the little things that
sometimes those little things that we normally take for granted when they happen, it's only when they are not happening that we look back and reflect and say, only if Dumi was here, this wouldn't be the case. I don't know how many times are we going to look back and say that, because it's not going to be easy for all of us. I personally shared a lot with Dumi outside the work environment, personal stuff. He was my go-to person. He was my confidant. And it takes time to build a trust, between two people. You have to earn someone's trust to share personal stuff with them. And this is what we used to have with Dumi. I knew a lot about his family without personally knowing them or having met them, because he would share. I will also reciprocate, tell him about my family, and then he will always say, Bakai Kumakapan start, because that's where I come from. Say Makapan start boy. Yeah. So now that he's gone, I don't know who I'm going to share those things that I need to offload when I need advice. And the good thing is that whatever we shared, he kept it to himself. He didn't say to other people, Whatever you shared with him, Sizwe, he kept it to himself, between just the two of you. He was like that. Hence, I started by saying he was in an abusive relationship, because we all go to him and pour our hearts out to him and offload. And he never got tired of our complaints and challenges that we went through. I'm sure the next speaker, Mzilikazi, will also... Oh, okay, before we go to Mzilikazi, Mondli wants to finish what he had started. Thank you.
My apologies. No, as I was saying, it's the little things. There's So in the City Press newsroom, which is, everyone who's here knows, it's a madhouse. I don't know what the recruitment policy was for that newspaper, but yeah, everyone's just crazy. And Dumi was part of that craziness. But there are some traditions, like on Saturdays a few of us would put bucks together, and someone would go off to Deep Kloof to go and buy skop, and would then gather in the kitchen, eat skop up and acha. And it would be, especially in the winter months, and it would be what please don't report me to the Human Rights Commission for the use of this, what we would jokingly call kaferkos. So now Dumi will not be there again to share in that kos. And there are things that we would do in the newsroom. At Christmas parties, there would be, we would have every gift that you get from anywhere, we'd put together, and those gifts would go into a common pool, and we would have auctions And Dumi was the designated photographer. And you sit there and take a yak photo. And with his little cell phone. And he brought that extra spirit to the Christmas party. And at around this time, October, November, you start to get those catalogs from Macro and Liquor City and so on that go into the into newspapers. And Dumi would be one of those walking around, showing us, hey, you see, over there, the Glenmorangie is $3.99, and this is like, and it would be that thing, and it's those things that, fine, we're not at work at the moment, but it's all those things that you know you will not be sharing with Dumi again. Dumi was a journalist. As a journalist. The first time I worked with him was at the Sunday Times back in the early 2000s, around 2004, 2005 or so. And so what many people do not know is that Dumisane Lubisi was one of the journalists who broke a story about a certain man who committed a certain act at a house, or allegedly committed an act. He was acquitted. Who committed a certain act at a house in Forest Town sometime in late 2005. So we got a tip-off early in the week. Dumi was part of the investigations team at the Sunday Times at the time. And so Dumi got a tip. We got a tip-off that this thing had happened, and that the alleged victim had laid a charge at the Hillbrow police station, a charge of rape at the Hillbrow police station, the details were so scant. We knew that people at Luthuli House knew about this. We knew that certain people who had counseled her knew about it, but there was nothing concrete for us to go on. So Dumisani and Dominic Mahlangu went to Hillbrow police station, and they found that the case had been removed from there and taken to Braamfontein regional provincial headquarters. And then they went there, they found that the case had been moved again because there was a determination to cover it up. And so our task was basically to piece together the pieces that were there to make sure that regardless of how much cover-up there is there, we are able to run the story. So they would come back after hunting and say to me, we are not getting anything clearly. And I would say, I don't give a hoot, Angnandaba. I want the story in the paper on Sunday. And they worked, and they worked, and they worked. And by Saturday morning, we had the story. We did not have a shred of paper in our hands, but through some really brilliant, intrepid investigative journalism, they had worked the story and got it solidly. And we were able on the Sunday morning to run with the headline, Zuma rape claim. Obviously it was, there were denials left, right and center, and eventually it got to a trial. But had they not done what they did, had they not actually persisted and done the journalism they did, that story may never, ever have seen the light of day. And I think one of the things that I'd like to do is just to pay tribute to him for that. And I think it's something that as he grew on and got more senior in life, it's one of those stories that is known, but it's not known who the architects of that particular story was. So Dumisani was one of those guys. Then Dumisani, in 2007, Matata Tsedu left me. He was supposed to be here, so I cannot shout at him. He stole him from me. And we reunited again in 2014, 2013-14 when I joined City Press. And Dumisani was now, when he left in 2007, he was much younger and a strong journalist, but now the Dumisani I met in 2014 was senior. He was a grey hair now, and he had become a pillar at City Press. He was the go-to guy for the most difficult things, and on the right hand of Ferial, and we reformed the bond that we had earlier on, but now obviously at a much more senior level. And I was grateful when I became editor after Ferial moved on, that I had Dumisani there to be that guy to go to, that guy who would be the guy who asks the tough questions, who asks of everybody. When we are sitting in conference, he's going to be the naysayer. He's going to be the guy who says, no, I don't think this fits in together. He was going to be the guy who, when we are doing posters, who's going to ask, no, I don't think this will stand the test of time. On the streets, it doesn't reflect what the story says. He was the guy who would say, listen, I'm the one who's going to have to go and defend this at the ombudsman, and it cannot be. And it was not because he just wanted to defend his own honor. He wanted to defend the honor of the newspaper that he loved. He loved City Press. He wanted City Press never to be in a position to have to apologize, to have to correct anything. And it angered him to no end when we got things wrong. And he sharpened our ability to discern right from wrong, whether it was ethics, whether it was the facts in the story, and so on. And that eye is no longer going to be there, and it's a huge void. And in our discussions about what to do, in our editorial opinions, he would be one of the people who would put his opinion forward and argue very strongly. And as we all know, Dumisane was very stubborn, and eventually, when we came around to a point of view, even if that position that we were taking as a newspaper, it's somebody who has to write the thing, and then that particular editorial opinion is assigned to him to write, he will write it as the collective has decided, because that was what has been decided, even though he had argued so strongly against it. And in the newsroom, he was an elder. He moved around from desk to desk, talking to people, talking absolute nonsense to some, and sometimes just giving advice about stories, about the direction of things, sometimes just talking about personal things, just getting to know people's lives. Which is an important thing in an office setting, that we are not robots, we are not machines, we are all human beings. And that guy, who some people in the office called Malume, because of that. That Malume of the office is not going to be there to be walking around in that way. Yes, as has been pointed out, Dumisani and I had our wars, and one of those was a Zulu-Swazi war. We would spar a lot about that. Another one was a KZN Mpumalanga war, me going on about each time a story that Sizwe has pitched, which had about some corruption in some municipality or provincial department in Mpumalanga. I would say, you see your people. Yeah. And each time there was some massacre in KZN, yeah, you see. So we had those wars. We had the war that Tim spoke about a certain lady who now lives in LA, who used to brighten up the the front page of City Press, who each time there's a Durban July or a Met or some awards, I would make sure that the photographic editor would actually have to, I would bully the photographic editor to brief his photographers that, look, make sure that at that function you get a picture of this person. And Dumisane would be the protection. Say, no. And to the point where when we would be in our editorial meetings, as soon as I was about to say noms, Dumisane would cut me off. Moving right along, he would say. And then there would be the biggest war was the one that has been spoken about. His love of that team, which was totally inexplicable. As we learned on Saturday evening, Babu Lubisi was telling us that he also can't understand why Dumisane went in that direction, because both he and Dumisane's mother were of the proper direction, Ezekiel 37. But Dumisane made a point that on Saturdays, when he was wearing his Kaizer Chiefs shirt, so we didn't sit near each other around the bottom table, but he would make sure, and that day when he's wearing the brightest Kaizer Chiefs t-shirt, he would come and occupy the seat next to me, and which would then force me to move to another seat and not occupy my usual seat, and then he would follow me. And then in order to just make me even angrier, he would want to rub this bloody thing onto me. So, but Mudidima, you say that you made a pact that somehow you're going to save me from myself, from the self-imposed torture. I think that's gonna take another 177 years, I think. Are we gonna live that long, both of us? Yeah. But just to say that in all the messages that came through, and when somebody passes on and you realize how much you did not get to appreciate them while they were around, there was one word that kept coming over and over again was honest. His honesty, and people spoke about his integrity. People spoke about what a great journalist he had been, and people spoke about their interactions with Dumisane, and many of those people had actually never met Dumisane. They'd only ever interacted over email, over the phone, and everybody who emailed, who WhatsApped, just really spoke about what a great experience that they had in dealing with this person. And I think it's credit to you. You brought up a really genuine human being, a titan of a person, and yeah, and that's testimony to your parenting. And so we at City Press have lost not only a news brain, we have not only lost an intellectual brain, not only have we lost somebody who's going to keep us from getting into trouble, we've lost a soul. We've lost somebody who made our newsroom livable, who made it fun, who made it the madhouse that it is, and somebody who also brought integrity to the work that we do. And then finally, I just want to talk about one thing that happens at City Press is that what makes it such a pleasant place. It's a very children-friendly place. For some reason or another, I don't know where it started, but children come into the office and hang around, and we have there's a thing that we also talk about City Press kids. I mean, like that kids who literally grew up in the newsroom. And those three boys grew up in that newsroom. They were everybody's kids. We knew everything about them because Dumisani spoke about them, but we knew everything about them because they were like part of us. They would walk in and like we knew them by name, we hugged, and we knew which kind of like what they'd been up to, what sports they'd been playing. We could ask them, I mean, what distance they ran, how they played, and so to say to them that we are still there. City Press is still your home, and we are still your parents. Dumisani may not be here there anymore, but yeah, just know that you were and still are very much part of the City Press family, and we want to thank you, Lubisi and the rest of the family, for having given us Dumisani, the Dumisani that we had and enjoyed. And just to everybody, to all of us seated here today who Dumisani touched, say, let's live his legacy, let's continue doing what he did, and when we are making decisions, let's let him be that little angel on our shoulders who's be telling us, that ain't right, no, do it that way. And know that, that in that way we'll know that he is not really gone. He is with us. Thank you. I always see them do this during the press conferences now.
Ezekiel 37, you said, it's about the bones. Thanks, Monty, for those kind words and telling it as it is, like Dumi will do. He wouldn't hesitate to speak his mind. As we try and wrap things up, after the next two speakers, I think we're going to open the floor for just two people who want to say a few words. But for now, it's Mzilika's time to come and share with us the life, the friendship that he lived with Dumisane.
Good afternoon, everyone. Tuba nomama Lubisi, uthi bangizalele a brother I never had. So Dumisane to me was not a friend, he was a brother. I've met Dumisane while he was still 18 years old. He passed away now at the age of 44. So I spent quite a lot of time with him. We became the three musketeers at African Eye. It was myself, Dumisane, and Sibusiswa Nkosi. And later on, I'll always say about it, whether Sizwe Samayende likes it or not, that I discovered him at the Haskral, and I brought him to Nelspruit to join us. We became a pack of wolves, 4 of us. So, Dumisane, because we were all coming from really, really very, very poor families, he was better than most of us. He realized that we were struggling as we were growing up. Then we decided to start a stokvel. The stokvel was not for us to get money. It was like, if it's my turn, I'll say, okay, guys, I don't have a fridge. So all the money from my stokvel, buy me a fridge. Next month, it's 10. Wherever I decide, okay, I don't have a bed, we'll do that. So when I joined Sunday Times in 1999, before I came to Joburg, I made a promise to them, Sizwe, Dumisane, and Sibusiswa, I'll try and bring them to Joburg. So it so happened that I was doubling as a researcher for third degree with Deborah Pater when third degree started. So, and Dumi really wanted to move over to Joburg because things were not good in Nelspruit. I went to Deborah. I said, look, says Deborah, I'm sacrificing this job that I'm having with you. I want you to replace me with someone else who will take over from me. And then Deborah said, who? I said, a guy by the name of Dumisane Lubisi. And then she said, but I never heard of him. I said, yeah, I know. And then she said, I can only accept him to replace you on one condition. I said, name it. It's on condition that you'll babysit him. And I said to her, look, the one that I'm bringing does not need any babysitting. It's well oiled. You'll come here and do the job perfectly, and you'll be happy about it. Okay. And then she said, bring him. Let me test him. It so happened that I spoke to Deborah on Friday, and then she said I must bring him to the office on a Monday. And Friday, Saturday were my deadlines. So after my deadline on Saturday, I went home, I slept. 1 a.m., I woke up, I had a buggy. I took my buggy, I drove down to Nelspruit. 5 a.m., I was in Matsulu. I knocked at the door, I said, Dumisane, we're going back to Joburg. This is the promise I made to you, and I'm fulfilling it. We packed his stuff, we came to Joburg, and he started working at third degree. And then he moved around, and the rest, as you all know, is history. It's well known what he has done, what he has achieved. There are things I just want to raise about Dumisane that really made an impact in my life. First, when we're still at African Eye, that jersey, awful jerseys that Mondli is talking about, that awful jersey got me a wife. So, Dumisane and I, one of the things that I asked when I was staying in Nelspruit in town, so Dumisane was Matsulu. So one of the things that I asked when my stock fell through, I asked them to buy me a TV, a big screen TV. So on weekends we'll come and watch game at my apartment because I had this big screen TV that I got from this stock fair. So people used to come that we didn't know because the word went around that there was this big screen TV there. So one weekend there was this group of girls that came. Dumisane and I were wearing Kaizer Chiefs jerseys, and the rest of the team came wearing Orlando Pirates jerseys. It was a game between Orlando Pirates and Kaizer Chiefs, and there was that awful Jerry Kosana was giving us a serious headache. So it so happened that out of the group of ladies that came that we didn't know, one of them was wearing a Kaizer Chiefs jersey, and she stole my heart. So I've been married to her for 23 years. So that jersey, it means a lot to me. So, again, when Dumisane moved to Joburg, he didn't have a place to stay. And I just bought my first house. And I was renting a place and I was about to move out somewhere in Highlands North. I spoke to the landlord. I said, look, I'm not cancelling my contract. I'm going to move to my new house and Dumisane will take over that contract. So Dumisane, when I brought him to Joburg, he moved into the place that I used to stay in Highlands North. Sometimes in August of 2004, like my wife was pregnant. That morning I had an assignment to do in Cape Town. She was heavily pregnant, so that morning before I left, I took her to the doctor. I said, Doc, when can we expect this child? The doctor said, sometimes before the end of next week. So I said, can I go to Cape Town? The doctor said, yes, you can go to Cape Town. But before I left for Cape Town, I said to Doom, look, I'm going to Cape Town. Even though the doctor has said We must expect this baby before the end of next week. Just in case, you know what to do. I arrive in Cape Town. I switch on my phone. I've got 13 missed calls from Dumisane. Please come back home. Your wife is in labor. I made my turn back to Joburg. I've missed the birth of my daughter, but Dumisane was there for me. That's the kind of brother that I have. When my dad died in 2016, Dumisane was at City Press. I was at Sunday Times. No one from Sunday Times came to the funeral in Bushbuckridge, but Dumisane was there. When my father-in-law died in KZN, no one came, but Dumisane was there for me. That's the kind of brother I have. That's the kind of brother that I'm going to miss. He taught me a lot. Although I was the elder, so to speak, but we are all brothers. We shared everything. I like what Caesar said. When we were at African Eye, we were just young kids trying to make life for ourselves. And it was because of us standing together, supporting each other. And whatever things that we're doing, we're able to move on in life. And that Caesar has stubbornly refused to move from Nelspruit. We tried every trick in the book. Every trick in the book, Caesar is refusing. He's still. And I believe that maybe he wants to be the premier of Mpumalanga. Maybe that's the reason he doesn't want to move, so he might lose his constituency. So, Umama Nomabilbis, thank you so much for giving us the brother. And thank you so much for opening up your house when we're nobodies. We'll come there on my weekends, Sizodla. You'll take good care of us like one of your own. Dumisane knew my passion for music. Even when we met at African Eye, I didn't stop talking about music. The first studio that I went to in my life was in Matsulu. Dumisane took me there, where I recorded my demo because of him. He took me there, said, okay, you always talk about this music thing. I know someone in Matsulu's got a studio. Let's go. So, I don't know, he has touched us in so many ways. He has taught us a lot. And now he's no more. We'll miss him. All the fun. We had a saying in Nelspruit. You'll say, like when we're saying we're going to have fun, it says, Yokansama globes. That was Dumisane coined those words. We tell you, Yokansama globe fun. So, we'll miss that fun. We'll miss his laughter. We'll miss, more special, we'll miss his whisper. He was a very intelligent man. And thank you.
Tina, we used to Kanyisa Madlozi at the office on Fridays and Saturdays. That's where we used to have fun, but just after deadlines. We spoke about Dumisane loving his work, doing everything possible, but you wouldn't separate him from his boys. He would leave the office around 1 because Wandile will be running at school. He had to be there to see him running and doing high jump during the athletics season. He will drive all the way to Pretoria to see Tando playing, be at Tex High or at Supersport United, because he lived for his boys. Everything that he did was for them. he wanted nothing but the best out of the boys. When the boys, I think last year they went to Bloemfontein from Parktown, Dumi, wanted to take leave to be there. The trip in Bloemfontein. I remember, I think Sia went to Durban, because he said Sia is an all-rounder. He was playing hockey at school. He's also playing football, and he wanted to see him in action. And this is what we normally don't see from mostly black parents. We don't go and support our kids at school. We leave everything to teachers and to school coaches, even at weekends, when they go and play, we are not there for them, but not Dumi. Dumi was always there for them. He would rather sacrifice work or come back to the office to work until late, as long as he's there, he's seen them playing, and you should see the smile when he talks about their performance, what he observed, what he saw. Now I'll call the boys. They wanted to also say a few words, share their times and lives with their dead. Sia.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you are all well. We are gathered here today to honor the memory of our late father. The A team was born 2003, my eldest brother Tando. 2005, myself, and 2007 it was Wandile, with my father being the captain. This is the team that our father will ensure his presence from birth to our first day of creche, primary school, high school, sports days, and any other significant or insignificant days. He was a devoted man that wanted nothing but the best for all of us. He was present in our lives. He was a loving and caring person, a family man, and a people's person. We will miss spending time with him at the office while chasing Sunday deadlines, Sunday braai, morning pictures on our first day of school every year, the drives to Soweto to buy iskopo namakwenya, including his attempts to bake scones that were a dismissal flop. His love, teachings, and guidance in this journey of life is what we will miss the most. I must say we were truly blessed to have had him in our lives. God has been nothing but great to us. We will carry him in our hearts and continue to make him proud, because all he ever wanted for us was the best that life could offer. Thank you, Pops, for the love. We will dearly miss you. See you on the other side. Rest well.
For a moment, I thought Barry White was here. Thanks, Sia. I know it has not been easy for you, especially. I know those morning trips to the school and those afternoon trips from school via the office. But like Montli said, I think City Press will forever remain your home. Personally, when it comes to sport, I'll be there. If you need anything, be it apparel, guidance, and anything else, I think I owe it to Dumisane, to take over where he has left. Now we'll call the brother, Moses Lubisi, on behalf of the family to also come and share with us the memories that they had with Rus Dumisane.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Moses Lubisi. I am Dumisane Lubisi's elder brother. Actually, what happens is my mother was the firstborn in the family. She was from a family of 9. And Dumisane's mother was the third born. So I'm the eldest grandchild. You know, sometimes life can be rough. You know, Dumisane was younger than me. But I don't remember at any given point calling Dumisane by name. I used to call him Mfo or Budumi. That's because of the kind of a person that he was. You know, much has been said about Dumisane here. And to me, it's more of a miracle because my observation in life is that in most instances people have got double or more than, double life. But, I'm grateful to listen to testimonies coming from Dumisane's friends. And everything that has been said here about Dumisane, it's exactly what I know about him. I am happy to stand in front of you and represent the family and talk about Dumisane. Because I think Dumisane has represented us well. He has been a very, very, very good ambassador. But, what we have seen from Dumisane, it's a resemblance of his parents. You know, this lady and a gentleman, my mother passed away 10 years ago. They are the only pillars left now in the family. But I have never seen people who care, who look after, us like these two. We wake them at 1 o'clock at night. Any day, any time, they are always there for us. So, Dumisane, what we have seen from Dumisane, it's something that Dumisane has copied from these two. And what is also interesting is that these two, they've copied the very same kind of, caring from our grandparents. I still remember and know exactly the kind of people that they were. My grandparents, you will never pass by, without being called into the household for a cup of water or anything that is there. It was more of a tradition to them. So that is where we have learned some of these things. Dumisane, my brother, thank you very much for being a very good ambassador. Colleagues from the City Press family and people who worked with Dumisane, I would love to say thank you very much for the opportunity that you gave Dumisane. Thank you very much for everything that you have done to Dumisane, not only to him, because what you have done to Dumisane, it has been an honor to us. You know, I've heard Yende saying when Dumisane started working was 18, and Mziliga said the same, that they've met while they were still young. It is sometimes difficult to let somebody to, be independent at that age. Dumisane came to Johannesburg while he was still young, but Dumisane never, forgotten about his roots. There's something that I've learned from Dumisane over the years. I was still asking myself, at some point, Dumisane, he bought himself a Mercedes-Benz. He called me. He came down to Nelspruit. He showed me that car. And a few months or down the line, he said to me, no, Put, this Mercedes-Benz doesn't bring anything to me. He sold the Mercedes-Benz. He said, I want to live a normal life. At times, Dumisane will call me and say, Put, I'm in town. I am from Joburg, but I've been, coming over by taxi. Oh, Dumisane. Why? He said, no. Why must I waste money because taxis are there? And, Dumisane, he kept all his friends, from primary school, high school, the very same friends that he had during his primary school years. They are still there. He has never changed. And those are the things that Dumisane has taught us a lot. That no matter what, but you still have to make sure that you keep your roots. I've heard a lot of stories about Dumisane today. As I'm saying, all the stories are true. But there is one other thing that I will never forget about Dumisane. Dumisane will always come with a problem and a solution at the same time. It's very rare for people to come with problems. And most of the times, whenever a person comes with a problem, he'll dump the problem with you and leave it with you. But with Dumisane, it was a different case. He'll come with a problem, but at the same time, he'll have a solution. He'll put it a solution to say, even though this is my problem, but I think if you can do 1, 2, 3, we might be able to come. So that was the kind of a person that he was. Very independent, as young as he was. And he was also a unifier in the family. We all respected Dumisane. Not because of his achievements in life, but because of the kind of a character that he was. Bafana bam, ngiyacabanga ukuthi babe kukuningi lenikufundile kuye. His love for the 3 boys, it was amazing. Dumisane, during this day and age, people are talking about a lot of things that involves women and children. But Dumisane was one of a kind. He made sure that he was always available for his kids. I'm sure it's a lesson that Dumisane has taught all of us, but I'm just wondering whether we'll still be able to do exactly as he did. So it's an assignment to most of us. Colleagues, once again, as a Lubisi family, we would like to say thank you very much for everything. Thank you very much for the opportunity that you granted Dumisane. Thank you very much for being a brother, a parent, family man, and to accept Dumisane as he was. I'm happy to say that Dumisane has written his own obituary. Somebody once asked, what is it that you want people to say about you during a memorial service? He asked me that question. And it was a very, very difficult question because I didn't know what to say. But with Dumisane, it has been very simple because he wrote his own obituary. He wrote his own, we're not struggling because he prepared his life. I'm told he was about to run a marathon last week on Saturday, and he couldn't. But that was God's plan. Because as we live, we are all in a race. Fortunately or unfortunately, we don't know when the winning point will be. But with Dumisane, God made everything to be possible. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Colleagues, we are preparing for the coming Saturday at Matsulu, his hometown. But I am not sure about the times, but obviously it will be early in the morning. But we know is that it's going to be on Saturday at Matsulu. So those of us perhaps who would like to accompany Dumisane would be, happy to know exactly who those people are going to be, because I'm sure we're all aware of these COVID rules and the numbers that are expected to be part of the final send-off. So if we can get that on time, but surely it's going to be on Saturday at Matsulu.
Thank you, Mr. Lubisi, Bramos. As we wrap things up, I'm going to call Mpumi, who also wants to say a few words here. And then I'll have space for one more person before I hand over to the Reverend for a closer.
Sanbonani. Thanks, Mr. Tim, for the opportunity. I'm here representing the friends that Dumi had in Matsulu. So, what we normally do with the Dumi, when we call each other, I will say Mata, and Dumi on the reply will say Gogo. Then I will say Matsala. Dumi will say Ungacheli mundu. Don't tell anyone. There's an old man in Matsulu who is very disturbed in the mind. So normally when you see him, he doesn't want people to know that you've seen him. He will always tell you, don't tell anyone. So that is what we're doing with the Dumi. I don't know now who I will call Mata, who I will call Gogo, who I will call Matsala. I knew Dumi because we are staying close to each other, but I just knew him as Dumi by then. How we really met for him to notice me. Oh, by the way, it is very important in Matsulu to be noticed by Dumi. He's very respected in Matsulu. Everyone in Matsulu, he calls him Dumi. Everyone. Even the elder one than him, they call him Dumi. So, Dumi was very good. There's a game, a pool. Dumi was the best in pool. So in Matsulu, he was a champion. And I was 16 years old. I challenged Dumi. I beat him on that day. Dumi got angry that a young boy beat him. He wanted a rematch. I refused. Up to today, I never played with Dumi. Our last game was when I won against him. So that is how Dumi noticed me. But I think he saw something from me because when I grew up, it's when I went to tertiary and all that. And then he started to be close to me. When he comes back, he will call me. We will go see it and everything. That is how I knew Dumi. So, in the process of me being close with Dumi, Dumi is the person who taught me how to be a good father. Dumi, always when he calls me, he will ask me, how are the daughters? Because what we had, I have daughters, Dumi has boys. I don't have a boy, Dumi has boys. So I will ask him also about his boys. Every day. That is the thing he will tell you. You can talk everything with Dumi, but he will tell you about his boys, and he will ask me about their daughters. I remember when I first came to Johannesburg, Dumi was the first person I called. Dumi was my navigator in Johannesburg. I never had to use a navigator. Everywhere I want to go, Dumi will tell you, where are you now? What are you seeing now? From there, he was very good. You will never get lost with Dumi. So we had a very, very strong relationship with him. I remember, I'm very sorry, Mr. Yende, you never got to where I got, because I remember my first suit, Dumi forced me to buy it. I never had a suit, but Dumi forced me, and he told me, no, there's special, I'm going. Let's go. He took me, and then he said, this suit you must buy. So now I'm proud to say at least I have 8 suits. As you can see, Mr. Hende. I know Dumi has more than 50 of them, but he forced me. Dumi has attended more funerals in Matsulu than myself. I stay in Nelspruit, by the way. That shows Dumi he loved people. I remember sometimes he will say, no, after finishing a paper, I'm driving to Matsulu for a funeral. myself I'll be busy. Dumi was never busy for people. Dumi is the type of a person who will call you, understand you, listen to you. I'm now surprised because the way he passed, we'll be saying that no, maybe it's the problem that man has, that man doesn't talk, and men. Dumi talks. Dumi talks. I don't know how he failed this one, but I guess it was time for him. Dumi was a free person. Dumi was a free person. I am 10 years younger than Dumi, but he never treated me as a young boy. He will always want to advise me, not to show me that he's older than me. I remember I did his house plan, the one he was extending now. So he said, yeah, you know, Mata, I want you to do the plan, but problem, you are in Nelspruit, and it must be approved here in Joburg. I said, no, that is not a problem. So every time when I have work in Joburg, I will come, go to the municipality to submit. But because while I was busy doing the plan, the old man didn't know what I was doing. So he was saying, no, everything is fine, everything is fine. Now when we start building, we have to do changes. I said, no, Dum, the reason municipality wants to approve, you must do changes before, not now when you're building. Yeah, Mata, you see this window? No, Mata. Mata, let's change. So the plan was that I will let Dumi now do the changes which I see that are legal. After the whole house is complete, I will have to go submit again. But I'm happy now that at least he won't be, because he always wanted an invoice. I want to pay you, so I will always run away because he wants to pay me. Even now, he wanted the invoice. I said, no, I will give you invoice when everything is done. Because I didn't want him to pay me for that. Dumi has helped me a lot. I had last supper with him last month. I called him, I said, no, Dumi, I'm in Joburg. He said, yeah, Mata, come to my house. I said, no, man, let's meet. He said, no, come to my house. Today I want to cook. I went there. He cooked. Dumi knows how to cook, but that day, it looked special. So it's only now I realize that, no, that was the last supper with Dumi. And that was it. It was a goodbye. But we all could not see at that time. I think Dumi bought another bottle. That was 2009. We had an agreement with him that we will drink the bottle after 21 years. So what we were doing with the bottle, it was staying with me for a year. The following year, Dumi will take it. So we're exchanging. This year, the bottle was supposed to be with him. But because he was busy renovating the house, we said, no, I will keep the bottle. The bottle is now 11 years. It's still not 21. And to me, it's gone. So I don't know what I will do with the bottle when it reaches the age of 21. Because we wanted to experience a 21 years old, as we could not afford it. Yeah, I remember I spoke to Dumi on his last day. That was Friday. And he told me, no matter. Oh, by the way, when Dumi is doing the running, I'm cycling. I'm a cyclist. I know in 5 years' time I'll be a professional one. So now I'm still working on the stamina. But Dumi was very quick. So I called him, he said, Mata, I'm going to do 5 kilometers today. No, I said, Mata, it's fine. But I found out that later Dumi didn't do the 5 kilometers. He did 21 kilometers. So that was his last race. Dumi had his last race. I don't know how many of you will have a last race. What I want to say, of everything that Dumi has done, Dumi was a great father. Boys, you had a father there. You had a father. Before he passed away, I remember it was last year, Dumi, he led away his most servant or someone who was helping Dumi in the house. He said to me, Mata, now I don't want a nanny. I said, no, man, but he said, you know what, my boys now have grown. I want to teach my boys responsibility. If I have a nanny, the boys will never grow. So I think the last month, because there was no nanny, the boys have grown. I remember they had opportunities of washing dishes and some of the chores. That was how Dumi was teaching. Dumi was a great friend. Dumi was a great colleague. Dumi was great everything. Yabo.
Thanks, Mpumi. We'll talk about the bottle offline. We'll take it offline. 10 more years, I'm sure we'll be there. I also want to experience a 21-year-old. Mr. Lubisi spoke about Dumi using taxis all the way to Matsulu. I can attest to that because I used to drop him there by Njord on a Saturday afternoon. After work, he'll say no. He wanted to catch the last taxi to Nelspruit. When he had issues with his car, he'll take a taxi up until the garage up there. I'll go pick him up because there weren't taxis from the garage up until Ogden Park. You know, and he didn't see anything wrong with it because there's nothing wrong with using taxis. He just saw himself as an ordinary person, and that was Dumi for you. I think for now we have done everything in the absence of a hand that will. There's a condolence book here that those who want to write something, it will go to the family for the boys. After this, we are free to visit it, and yeah. I think there's been an honor to spend the afternoon with you since the morning. And the parents and the family are leaving, I'm not sure, straight after this to Nelspruit and to Matsulu, where everything will be done. We wish them a safe trip back home, and some of us will join them over the weekend. Also, not forgetting to observe lockdown protocols. As Mr. Lubisi said, as you can imagine, it has not been easy for all of us, but we always look into the books, the scriptures, where we get our consolations from. Not many people who I drive with or in my car like to listen to the music that I listen to because I only play gospel in my car. And Dumi never complained, although I didn't like what he was playing in his car. which is rap, and then rap is always loud. Yeah, so so when I listen to one of the hymns, and it says, Morena he wena o rialo re ka belaela jwang, because ore ke nna ya lefang tshwarelo, ke nna ya le fodisang. He wena o rialo re ka belaela jwang. E ra gore he's the one who heals us. He's the one who forgives us. And if he's the one who does that for all of us, why should we doubt him? He's the one who decided that we'll be here today. Some of the things we need not question them, because we'll never get answers. Over to you, Reverend Baker, for your closing ceremony. Thank you.
Let us pray. Father God, we thank you for your presence with us here today. We thank you for the gift of Dumasani to each of us, to his colleagues, to his friends, to his family. We pray for his family now as they travel home and they take Dumasani to his final resting place. We pray that you bless them, that you go with them, and that on Saturday you will comfort their hearts as they lay him to rest. Thank you for your love. Thank you for your peace. Thank you for Dumasani, a son, a brother, a father, a friend and colleague. Thank you for the gift he was to us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. May I ask that we please stand. Jesus said, I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me will not die, but will live forever. And so we entrust Dumasani to God's merciful keeping. And now may the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, the love of God the Father, and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with us and with those that we love, now and forever. Amen.
Thank you. Thank you very much.